On his way home from the tribute to Nelson Mandela Tuesday, the French president made an unexpected stopover. Less than a week after the UN mandated France to deploy to the Central African Republic, François Hollande visiting French forces in Bangui and paying respects to two soldiers killed in an exchange of fire. It's the second time in less than a year that France has sent troops to a former African colony, and already the defense minister in Paris warning that the Centrafrique mission will be more difficult and dangerous than the one in Mali. We're going to put that statement to the test, ask if France was the only option for restoring order, and see why this time it's worse for a chronically unstable Centrafrique, where Muslim traders are pitted against Christian and animist farmers, and where militiamen from neighboring Sudan and Chad add a further layer of uncertainty. Today, in the France 24 debate, will it be France to the rescue? Joining us from Bangui for an update, our correspondent Alex Turnbull here in the studio. He was Centrafrique's prime minister from 2001 to 2003, Martin ZIGUELE, today in the opposition. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thanks as well to Chad's former foreign minister who served both in office and also in opposition in your own country. The ACHEIKH IBN-OUMAR, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We want to welcome as well a journalist, and she's one of the coordinators of Internet Without Borders, which is trying to document what's going on inside of the Central African Republic. Judy OWONO, thank you for being with us. And journalist Michael KIRTLEY, producer of the World Memory Project. He also served as an advisor on a Hollywood feature film that was shown in, that was filmed, excuse me.
Produced in Central Africa.
Produced in the Central, don't know if it was shown, but it was produced.
We did a show to Bozize and other people.
All right, that was back in 2010 that you
2012, the film came out.
The film came out. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our hashtag F24Debate. 1,600 French troops deployed to the Central African Republic. The actual deployment began as fighting and looting last week killed hundreds. In the middle, the French found themselves engaged in street combat. France 24's Mathieu Mabin and Alex Turnbull filed this story on Tuesday.
The French army on alert on the streets of Bangui. They answer a call by local residents after a man is reported injured. There have been clashes just moments before. The situation could degenerate at any moment, so caution is essential. Shot in the stomach, this man's condition is life-threatening. It's impossible for French troops to know on which side the man is fighting. Since carrying a weapon in Bangui has been banned, combatants have shed their uniforms. Nevertheless, French soldiers give him first aid.
People told us that this man was wounded. We're taking care of him and are waiting for the Red Cross to get here to evacuate him. It's also our mission to help the local population.
Bangui is under tight French army control. Soldiers are scrolling through every part of the city, chasing down weapons.
In this largely Christian neighbourhood, people applaud the disarming of the former Seleka rebels. Warning shots are fired by French soldiers. Nearby, a mob is looting a supermarket under the eyes of French troops and Central African security forces. They lack the equipment to intervene in these types of disputes. Armed with clubs and machetes, the Muslim owners of the shop quickly chase them off. In Bangui, the priority remains to assist the injured and to disarm militias.
And we can go to Bangui and our correspondent Alex Turnbull. Alex, that was Tuesday. The situation has quieted since. Do the French fully control the capital?
Well, you know, after the death of the two soldiers, we started seeing less soldiers on the streets of Bangui. And, well, it is a paradox, but the situation feels a little quieter. It seems like it has improved, and we saw residents of Bangui venture out into the streets today, probably to go out and get some food and water after days spent hiding in their home. There are also these characteristic taxi cabs that you get here. Their drivers had simply disappeared over the past weekend. They were back in town as well. So there is a sense that it's a little quieter indeed. But again, we're still getting reports. We got reports this afternoon of combats, of gunfire, of people setting up barricades, especially around PK5, a bit of the Muslim neighborhood in Bangui. So there is still outbreaks of violence, but again, you know, it's very hard to identify who's involved, when it's going to take place, where it can actually evolve. The situation can evolve on the ground very, very quickly, going from a regular afternoon in Bangui to a very violent clash between armed groups, between an angry mob and a Muslim shop owner. That's what we saw last Tuesday. So it is quieter, but it remains very unstable.
And do you know a little bit more about why there was this sudden upsurge of violence just when the French were about to deploy last week?
Well, it's hard to say exactly who decided to launch this coordinated attack against Bangui. The groups that led this attack were labeled as anti-Balaka units, these self-defense leagues that were created before this conflict but were reactivated in some sorts to fight the former Seleka rebels that were attacking Christian communities or residents, and they are said to be the ones behind this attack. But again, it could also be various militias, armed groups, armed men. They probably decided to launch this attack before the actual vote of the UN, which gave the French army a mandate to use force to disarm the militias in town. That's what the army is here for. And at the beginning of the week, they set up checkpoints all across town and stopped any car that was coming their way. Grabbed, as you saw in the report, grabbed the weapons from the people who were reluctant to give them back. And that's probably why these anti-Balaka groups chose to do it at that moment.
All right, thanks for that, Alex Turnbull. Let me turn to Martin ZIGUELE. How do you explain why, just when the French are arriving, there is this, as Alex was saying, this seeming, of course, we're still trying to piece together what happened, but this seeming coordinated attack?
I think the group which was in power before the change of 21st March, they have decided to attack the country before the vote of the resolution. They wanted to see, as we put in French, it's a fenêtre d'opportunité.
A window of opportunity.
Yeah, a window of opportunity to attack and to create to be part of political agreement if there will be political discussion to be there.
To be part of a political agreement, excuse me for asking cynically, or perhaps to do a bit of looting before the French arrive.
Or to take power. If they can't take power before the French arrive, they can't be the part of political arrangement which could be discussed after. But it's not
raise their political stock.
It's not only people, anti-Balaka, young men who are angry and decided to attack. No, it's very planified, I think.
Do you share that view, ACHEIKH IBN-OUMAR?
Well, I am not in the position to fine-tune my analysis of the situation in the Central African Republic. Though I am from Chad, so I am interested in the situation. It is clear that the timing was meaningful. And before, as you said, just before the vote at the Security Council of the United Nations, I think that the group is clearly belonging to former President Bozizé camp. Is President Bozizé directly controlling this group or not? So I cannot say. But this group is from his ethnic group and from his former followers. That is clear. The main goal, I think, is to prevent the transition process from, being successful. I think that is the calculation is here. Because if there is any electoral process according to the Libreville Accord, Bozizé and his cronies will be out of the game totally. So I think that they try to create a confusion in order to prevent the electoral process from coming to fruition, if I may say.
Let me ask Julie OWONO, because you have field operatives, obviously, inside of the Central African Republic. Do they see this as political gamesmanship, or do they see this more as just, hate and revenge killings?
Well, as you said, we're in touch with people, with local civil society organizations and workers, and they are more into the human aspects. So obviously, for them, they don't ask themselves whether it was political or not. They do not have this time. But from afar, indeed, the timing is questionable because, as you've said, the attack happened a few days before the French intervention began, and this prompts other questions. And specifically, the position of President Bozizé. Where is he at the moment? He's said to have arrived in France. France is intervening in his country, well, the country he used to rule. And until now, he has not called for peace. He has not said any words in favor of a peace agenda to solve the crisis in the Central African Republic. So this is also very, very questioning and very worrying in terms of opportunities of solutions, of long-term and sustainable solutions, that the belligerents are not all on the table and do not discuss accordingly towards the same objective of peace.
Michael Kirtley, should we be hearing from the ousted president?
Well, obviously, President Bozizé has a word to say, but I think that right now, the situation on the ground is not one where you can determine who are the belligerents exactly. You have people that are definitely angry at one another. Certainly, the CHADIAN has done a lot to create a backlash against them for months of looting and destroying villages and pillaging. And as I would say, that probably the answer to that question is that there's definitely political maneuvering on all sides, but there's also a certain amount of I think that before the French arrived, from the reports I'm receiving, there was also a desire to do something in the meantime, because knowing the French were going to be arriving, there wasn't going to be the possibility to do that afterwards. So I think it's a little premature because are there leaders of the anti-Balaka that we can negotiate with today? We don't know that. Are there leaders of the CHADIAN that we can negotiate with today? We don't even know that. Okay, there are all kinds of things that are happening inside of Bangui today, which make me believe that the answers will probably come from people stepping forward in the future and not people that have stepped forward so far.
All right, and it's volatile, and it's unclear, and it's muddy, and in the end, France's reconquering of northern Mali, well, it seems like a walk in the park, at least at this point. Those first French casualties coming on Monday, and the defense minister of France offering up a sober prognosis for what's to come.
The operation in the Central African Republic is much less expensive than the mission in Mali, but it's more difficult. Less expensive because of the reduced cost of transport and weapons, yet more delicate because it's difficult to identify the enemy, because both pro-Seleka and anti-Balaka fighters are mixing with the civilian population.
Des éléments de la Seleka, voire même des anti-Balaka qui se fondent dans la population.
Is this really going to be a tougher mission than in Mali, Michael?
Well, it's a very different kind of mission.
You know both countries, so maybe
I know both countries quite well, and I think the biggest difference is that when the French went into Mali, they had a particular target, they were trying to drive off the jihadis that had taken over a large part of the country in Mali, whereas in the Central African Republic, they don't know who exactly the enemy is in terms of restoring order. Obviously, the Seleka is a good target, but it seems to me that the situation has gone beyond a situation of simply the Seleka. Once you get the Seleka under control in Bangui, what does that mean for the rest of the country? In other words, what does success mean? I'm not sure exactly what success means in the formula. Here, when they went into Mali, success meant driving the jihadis out of Timbuktu, out of Gao, and hopefully out of Kidal. But what does success mean here? Does it mean quelling the situation in Bangui? Because the Seleka, they have all kinds of places they can go and have gone in the past.
It sounds, Martin Ziguelele, like it's mission impossible for the French if they're going to have to try to break up every street fight in the whole country.
No, I don't think it's an impossible mission. I think the problem here in our country is not the same that in Mali, but it's clear too. There are many groups in the country, Seleka, Anti-Balaka, or other criminal groups, which detain guns and very loud great guns and so on, and they have not to take it with them. They are in the what we call quartier. They live with people in the neighborhoods, and they have to be disarmed. And I think before making all actions, any army in the world, they have to have they have intelligence. They know exactly where that kind of people are living, how they deal with their activities,
and are the French up to that?
And I think that French army has the intelligence about that people, and by being helped by people there, they can know exactly how to do. And I think even if the problem is not the same in Mali, we know exactly that there are many people in that country easily identifiable. We can identify them easily. They have guns, and they have not the right to have guns. If we have done this job, this job is done, I think the country will be peaceful. And if the country is peaceful, we can't speak about transition or about political situation.
All right, I want to hear what the rest of the panel has to say. We're going to take a quick break and come back. This is the France 24 debate.